cord to this computer. Okay. I don't know how I keep my brain straight on all this. Cord to the cloud. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study in the Urantia Book of paper 139, the 12 Apostles, and we're in section 11, Simon the Zealot, and that's on page 1564 of the original Urantia Book, or paper 139, 11-1. So, all these years when I introduce the paper, I'm so used to saying, "Can I say a little prayer?" We don't do that anymore. It's kind of weird. Hey,
do we have sound?
I got sound tonight. Yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
everybody.
everything's coming in good.
Yeah, everything's cool. So we're ready to go. Let me hit this up here and down here. All right, and we're ready to go. I guess I'll start reading. Simon the Zealot. Simon Zelotes, here's Lech, was chosen by Simon Peter, which is the first two apostle. Remember Simon Peter? He was, people get these two confused all the time, Simon Zealot and Simon Peter. They're two different people. He was an able man of good ancestry and lived with his family at Capernaum. He was 28 years old when he became attached to the apostles. He was a fiery agitator and a lost my picture. Let's mute your sound for me while I'm talking.
Mute it.
Okay. Yeah, just mute it while I'm talking. It keeps writing over my sound.
It buzzes.
Yeah, buzzes. He was 28 years old when he became attached to the apostles. He was a fiery agitator, and he was also a man who spoke much without thinking. He had been a merchant in Capernaum before he turned his entire attention to the patriotic organization of the Zealots. So he was a patriot and very fiery and go-getter, right? All right, Diane.
Simon Zealot was given charge of the diversions and relaxation of the apostolic group, and he was a very efficient organizer of the play life and recreational activities of the 12.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he set up all the play activities for Wednesdays, right? It's kind of interesting for a lot of the churches for years and years and years, they would have services on Wednesday, but they wouldn't do certain things on Wednesdays. Don't hardly do that anymore. All right, Rodney, would you take the next?
Yes. Simon's strength was his inspirational loyalty. When the apostles found a man or woman who floundered in indecision about entering the kingdom, they would send for Simon. It usually required only about 15 minutes for this enthusiastic advocate of salvation through faith in God to settle all doubts and remove all indecision, to see a new soul born into the liberty of faith and the joy of salvation.
Wow, 15 minutes.
That's pretty good. And he didn't carry a stick,
I think it was a Rottweiler.
Pam, would you take the next one?
Yeah. Simon's great weakness was his material mindedness. He could not quickly change himself from a Jewish nationalist to a spiritually minded internationalist. 4 years was too short a time in which to make such an intellectual and emotional transformation, but Jesus was always patient with him.
It mentions here 4 years. We know Jesus's lifetime was over 4 years, right? And everything that I've quoted in the videos and stuff I've done, I say over 30 years or 33 years because that's the accepted time for the public to that Jesus was on the earth, but it was really over 34 years. I think it was, what was it, Rodney? 34 and 5 months, something like that?
35 and 3/4
Three
years.
quarters, 35 and 3/4. So I did not change that when I made the videos consciously because people expect it to be 33 years and it's not. That's why they say 4 years here. Okay. Gary. This can't be Gary's. It's too short.
I'm reveling in it. The one thing about Jesus, which Simon so much admired, was the master's calmness, his assurance, poise, and inexplicable, inexplicable,
Inexplicable. Yeah.
composure.
Okay. Notice how each of the apostles, they give us what they liked about Jesus. That's what we're doing here. Okay, Letch, would you take the next one? Don't forget that.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Although Simon was a rabid revolutionist, a fearless firebrand of agitation, he gradually subdued his fiery nature until he became a powerful and effective preacher of peace on earth and goodwill among men. Simon was a great debater. He did like to argue, and when it came to dealing with the legalistic minds of the educated Jews or the intellectual quibblings of the Greeks, the task was always assigned to Simon.
He was the arguer then, right? All right.
Interesting.
Huh?
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. He was a rebel by nature and an ironclast by training.
Iconoclast.
Iconoclast by training. Thanks, Rodney. But Jesus won him for the higher concepts of the kingdom of heaven. He had always identified himself with the party of protest, but he now joined, well, I can't read tonight. He now joined the party of progress, unlimited and eternal progression of spirit and truth. Simon was a man of intense loyalties and warm personal devotions, and he did profoundly love Jesus. So he loved
Wonderful.
Great. Go ahead.
Jesus was not afraid to identify himself with businessmen, laboring men, optimist, pessimist, philosophical, yeah, thank you, skeptics, publicans, politicians, and patriots.
So he was a man among men then, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well-rounded.
Yeah. Rodney.
The master had many talks with Simon, but he never fully succeeded in making an internationalist out of this ardent Jewish nationalist. Jesus often told Simon that it was proper to want to see the social, economic, and political orders improved. But he would always add, that is not the business of the kingdom of heaven. We must be dedicated to the doing of the Father's will. Our business is to be ambassadors of a spiritual government on high, and we must not immediately concern ourselves with aught but the representation of the will and character of the Divine Father, who stands at the head of the government whose credentials we bear. It was all difficult for Simon to comprehend, but gradually he began to grasp something of the meaning of the Master's teaching.
Okay, and y'all remember from the charges from Gabriel and Emmanuel in paper 120, these things were on the list that Jesus was not to do. Do y'all remember this?
Yeah.
He was not to interfere with the political government. He was not to interfere with the financial situations of the government. He was not to interfere with anything but revealing the Father's will and setting up the spiritual kingdom. Okay. And he charged his apostles to do the same thing. Unfortunately, the Christian church later on tried to take over everything, take over the world. We know that from the Catholics. So but it is important to understand that I just talked about this in the very last video I did today for chapter 19 on the charges for Jesus, what he could not do. And the point I wanted to make is this is exactly why, now listen to me closely, exactly why the celestial beings and celestial government does not step in and take up or take over this messed up world. Okay? They must allow us to go through our own free will and go through our own evolution of government, religion, everything from scratch. And they are not allowed to step in and take over unless we're going to destroy ourselves. Okay? That's what's important about this. They're following the lead of Jesus from this paragraph in paper 120. So don't expect the celestial government to pop in one day and say, you guys have messed this up enough, we're taking over. They're not going to do that because they will not interfere with our own evolution and they will not disturb our own free will because we would not learn our own lessons if they did. And that's a hard, hard pill to swallow, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, we'd all like to see them step in, take over, and make this planet a heaven on earth. And they won't do that as long as we're messing it up. So we're going to have to grow first. Okay. Let's go on. Pam, would you take the next one?
Sure. After the dispersion because of the Jerusalem persecution, Simon went into temporary retirement. He was literally crushed. As a nationalist patriot, he had surrendered in deference to Jesus' teachings. Now all was lost. He was in despair, but in a few years he rallied his hopes and went forth to proclaim the gospel of the kingdom.
So he felt very defeated, didn't he? Okay.
What's this persecution they're talking about of Jerusalem?
Jerusalem, right after the death of Jesus, all those who were claiming to be followers of Jesus were persecuted tremendously, Gary, for hundreds of years. Okay, that's they threw Christians to the animals and the arenas. They crucified hundreds of thousands of people that claim to be Christian, all this stuff, and that's the persecutions that are talking about. So these guys, the apostles and those that went out preaching the gospel of the kingdom, knew that their life was in danger and more than likely that they would be killed because of their views. So some things never change, right?
No, we're getting there now because if you analyze things, what is a lot of the things that's gone on is basically a religious war.
It is. Look at what's going on right now today. We've got two different factions in our political arena. One of them is pushing Christianity, and the other is pushing chaos, right? So it makes it really, really difficult. All
I
right.
think the Gaza stuff with Palestine and Israel, the basic tenets is uh, the Palestinians want the Israelis wiped out because of their belief system.
The religion, yeah, it's religious wars just like it's always been for the last 2,000 years. And it may take another 100,000 years before it's all straightened out, right? So in the meantime, we have to preach the will of God in our faith, and that's all we can do. And we have to remember that Jesus's message was not for Christianity, was it? Jesus's message was for all religions, all mankind, and every individual. It wasn't for one religion. Jesus did not start Christianity. People think Jesus started Christianity. He did not. He started the will of God and the brotherhood of man. It was Paul and Peter that changed it to Christianity.
Correct.
The church of today is not what Jesus envisioned by no stretch of the imagination, right?
Read the history of the Nicene Council and you'll understand.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Gary, would you take this paragraph?
I'm elated. He went to Alexandria and, after working up the Nile, penetrated to the heart of Africa, everywhere preaching the gospel of Jesus and baptizing believers. Thus he labored until he was an old man and feeble, and he died and was buried in the heart of Africa.
Notice it didn't say that he was crucified, did it? He died of old age.
But God got away from Rome.
Got away from Rome and that mess there, right? Removed himself and started evangelizing other places. Judas Iscariot, the very last of the 12 apostles. Okay, Roger, would you take this? Yes, I'll be glad to. Okay. Judas Iscariot. Judas Iscariot, the 12th apostle, was chosen by Nathanael. He was born in Kerath, a small town in southern Judea, where he was a lad. His parents moved to Jericho, where he lived and had been employed in his father's various business enterprises until he became interested in the preaching and the work of John the Baptist. Judas's parents were Sadducees, and when their son joined John's disciples, they disowned him. So he was not a liked person by his family.
A shame.
Okay,
Which mean that they cut him off financially.
They cut him off financially. Not only that, that battling with his own kin and stuff spilled over into his relationship with the apostles. Okay. All right. Diane.
When Nathanael met Judas at Tarichea, he was seeking employment with a fish drying enterprise at the lower end of the Sea of Galilee. He was 30 years of age and unmarried when he joined the apostles. He was probably the best educated man among the 12 and the only Judean in the master's apostolic family. Judas had no outstanding traits of personal strength, though he had many outwardly appearing traits of culture and habits of training. He was a good thinker, but not always a truly honest thinker. Judas did not really understand himself. He was not really sincere in dealing with himself. It's
That's a good psychological description.
I'm sorry, what?
You said it's good.
It's just difficult to understand how he had to suffer so much because he didn't have the qualifications others did. And then was disowned by his own family. Yeah.
He was a lonely man, lonely, angry man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunate.
How did he kill himself? He killed himself after his
hanging.
Roger, you're muted. He hung himself.
He hung himself, yeah. But you want to see an example of this kind of person, pick almost any video on the internet, because so many of these videos on the internet sounds like they're giving you information. In reality, they're being dishonest. Okay. So it is very, very hard to discern what is real and what is not real, because the not real things are getting lots and lots of plays and people are making money off of it. The things that are real are not. Okay. The computer doesn't push it out there, so people don't hear about it. And I mean, if you want to know that, look at our Urantia Book website. We've been out there 14 years and we still have not got that many plays over 14 years. And all we're teaching is truth there, nothing else. Right. So it is the things you see on TV, the things you see on the internet are not always good, but they're the personality of what we're just discussing right here of Judas. Okay. And it's hard to discern that. So, all right, let's keep going.
Andrew appointed Judas treasurer of the 12.
Yeah.
A position which he was eminently fitted to hold. And up to the time of the betrayal of his master, he discharged the responsibilities of his office honestly, faithfully, and most efficiently.
So up to the betrayal, he did what he said he was supposed to do, right? All right. Pam, would you take the next?
There was no special trait about Jesus which Judas admired above the generally attractive and exquisitely charming personality of the master. Judas was never able to rise above his Judean prejudices against his Galilean associates. He would even criticize in his mind many things about Jesus, with him whom 11 of the apostles looked upon as the perfect man, as the one altogether lovely and the chiefest among the 10,000. This self-satisfied Judean often dared to criticize in his own heart. He really entertained the notion that Jesus was timid and somewhat afraid to assert his own power and authority.
So he felt like Jesus was a coward most of the time, right?
And he was himself.
And he was himself the coward. Gary, would you take
That must be
Can you
Gary.
see that all right, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay.
Judas was a good businessman. It required tact, ability, and patience, as well as painstaking devotion, to manage the financial affairs of such an idealist as Jesus, to say nothing of wrestling with the helter-skelter business methods of some of his apostles. Judas really was a great executive, a far-seeing and able financier, and he was a uh, stickler for organization. None of the 12 ever criticized Judas. As far as they could see, Judas Iscariot was a matchless treasurer, a learned man, a loyal, though sometimes critical apostle, and in every sense of the word, a great success. The apostles loved Judas. He was really one of them. He must have believed in Jesus, but we doubt whether he really loved the Master with a whole heart. The case of Judas illustrates the truthfulness of that saying. There is a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof is death. It is altogether possible to fall victim to the peaceful deception of pleasant adjustment to the passive sin and death, but assured that Judas was always financially loyal to his master and his fellow apostles. The money could never have been the motive of his betrayal of the master.
So what they're telling us is it wasn't the 30 pieces of silver that Judas was after when he betrayed the master, was it? So that was not it at all.
Didn't
And
he throw it back at him?
yeah, he did. But the thing I want to point out here is the fact that they bring out that the pathways of sin ends up in death. So even though it seems like it's pleasant and enticing to do these things. Many times those pleasant and enticing stuffs will be the pathway to your end. So you have to be very attentive to what you do. Lech, would you take this one? Lech, I think I skipped over you last time because I don't have a picture of you up here. So
Yeah, sorry.
yeah.
Okay. Judas was an only son of unwise parents. When very young, he was pampered and petted. He was a spoiled child. As he grew up, he had exaggerated ideas about his self-importance. He was a poor loser. He had loose and distorted ideas about fairness. He was given to the indulgence of hate and suspicion. He was an expert at misinterpretation of the words and acts of his friends. All through his life, Judas had cultivated the habit of getting even with those whom he fancied had mistreated him. His sense of values and loyalties was defective.
Okay. So if you think you can go around getting even with people that's done things wrong, this is a perfect example of why you don't want to do that,
Yeah.
right? It really is. So uh, we'll have to be careful about getting back at people, right? These things, through this whole paper are lessons on how to live, really, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
All right. To Jesus, Judas was a faith adventure. From the beginning, the master fully understood the weakness of this apostle, and he well knew the dangers of admitting him to the fellowship. But it was the nature of but it is the nature of the sons of God to give every created being a full and equal chance for salvation and survival. Jesus wanted not only the mortals of this world but but the onlookers of numerous other worlds to know that when doubts exist as to the sincerity and wholeheartedness of a creature's devotion to the kingdom, it is the invariable practice of the judges of men fully to receive the doubtful candidate. And that's what they do in the mansion worlds, right? The door of eternal life is wide open to all. Whoever whosoever will may come. There are no restrictions or qualifications save the faith of the one who comes. So by faith you are saved, not by sacrifice, not by Jesus being on the cross, right? It's faith that saves you.
Do you think Judas made it to heaven?
That's
No,
what I wonder.
I doubt it.
To the mansion world,
Yeah, I don't think he made it to the mansion world for two reasons.
he
No,
wasn't a sleeping survivor.
no, I don't think he even became a sleeping survivor, and let me tell you why. Um, First, he totally, how would we say this? He didn't, he totally betrayed the master, the creator of the universe. Okay. So that betrayal was number one. The second thing he did was what? Think about this. He killed himself. Did he not?
Mm-hmm.
He hung himself. He committed suicide, and in his case, this was what I would consider a final decision. Okay. He wanted to end it all. He didn't want to go on. He wanted to stop everything because of the pain he felt. So, in that regard, he made a final decision to end it all. And because of that final decision, I don't believe he would wake up on the mansion world. Okay.
The God's forgiveness of his betrayal because he had faith in Jesus. He had the faith in the one saying single God. But I understand the suicide is basically tapping out. I do not want to go on.
That's right. That's the
That's a,
final
that's
decision.
a re, that's a rejection of God's invitation.
That's the rejection of mercy too,
Mhm.
right? At any time, you can reject God and refuse God's mercy and end your existence.
What happens now in Canada? I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong. They have assisted suicide for people who are dying in, you know, that want to die. Say a person's in the last throes of cancer and
Yeah.
the pain is excruciating. Uh,
I
would
think in every single one of those cases, Gary, the judges will have to judge that individually by their motives. Okay?
Mhm.
Because they may justify them in doing that, they may not. I don't know. But
they
they have to be justified in taking that action because that's the worst possible action you can take as a human being. Why? Because Jesus chose to live a normal life. And in that normal life, he accepted the fact that he was going to go through the most horrible death that any human being can do. So if Jesus can do that, if I die writhing in my bed in pain, so be it. If Jesus can do it, I can do it.
yeah.
Okay. That's the way I look at it. But each case is different. You will be judged by your motives. If your motives are just, you will wake up in the mansion worlds. If not, you will not wake up at all. Okay. I think it's a bad, bad thing that the whole country up there has made this decision to do this. There should be safeguards for this sort of thing, multiple levels of safeguards so that people don't feel like they have to do this. You see what I'm saying? If we love one another like we're supposed to love one another, wouldn't it make sense that we would try to keep these people out of pain if they're in that much pain, or if they're in some situation where they feel there's no hope, we work it out so they feel like they have hope? I mean, I think this is a lack of ministry to these people. That's what I think.
I would think with I had an experience a few 5 years, 6 years ago, which I was in a lot of pain. I mean, I moved, I was in pain, intense pain. And I wound up in the emergency room and they gave me a shot of morphine.
Yeah.
And boy, talk about a wonder drug. I went from, I can't stand much more to what happened. It was that quick. I mean, they shot me
Oh,
in the arm
I
and
can
bam.
relate 100%, Gary. When I was in my car accident and broke my shoulder, uh, they put me in the hallway and they gave me a shot of morphine. I didn't feel a thing, you know, and I was just excruciating in pain. So I know exactly what you're talking about. There are drugs like that to help support people. And I think in cases like that, we need to use them, you know.
Well, they
So
didn't have any hesitation when they saw me. They just, boom, once I got in the emergency room and
yeah, that's what they did with me too. But it's funny because I look back on that during all that pain. I couldn't breathe. I was in tons of pain. My wife can verify that. Um, I never had one thought about committing suicide. You know,
did I.
it didn't come to my mind. So it's really all in the personality and the person that you're dealing with. And when you got mass suicides going on in a country above us, there's got to be some social reason that's going on that this is happening and it needs to be corrected, right?
And I think the motivation for it is reduction of costs.
Yeah. Reduction of population too, I'm sure. Anyway, let's go on. Right.
Okay.
This
This is
Did I skip over one? Yeah. Hang on.
okay.
Okay.
Ready?
Read
Okay.
it.
This is just the reason why Jesus permitted Judas to go on to the very end. always doing everything possible to transform and save this weak and confused apostles. But when light is not honestly received and lived up to, it tends to become darkness within the soul. Judas grew intellectually regarding Jesus' teachings about the kingdom, but he did not make progress in the acquirement of spiritual uh, character, as did the other apostles. He failed to make satisfactory personal progress in spiritual experience.
So really, it was his own fault, right? Yeah, it's a shame, period. It's his own fault. You can relate to what he went through, can't you? Yeah. I mean, very easily. So, Rodney, would you take the next one?
Judas became increasingly a brooder over personal disappointment. And finally, he became a victim of resentment. His feelings had been many times hurt, and he grew abnormally suspicious of his best friends, even of the master.
Hang on just a second, Rodney. Letch, could you mute again? You're overriding Rodney here. Thanks.
Presently, he became obsessed with the idea of getting even, anything to avenge himself. Yes, even betrayal of his associates and the master.
All right, so the problem seems to be all with him, doesn't it? Okay, Pam, would you take the next one?
Yeah. But these wicked and dangerous ideas did not take definite shape until the day when a grateful woman broke an expensive box of incense at Jesus' feet. This seemed wasteful to Judas, and when his public protest was so sweepingly disallowed by Jesus, right there in the hearing of all, it was too much. That event determined the mobilization of all the accumulated hate, hurt, malice, prejudice, jealousy, and revenge of a lifetime. And he made up his mind to get even with he knew not whom, but the crystallized but he crystallized all of the evil of his nature upon the one innocent person in all the sordid drama of his unfortunate life, just because Jesus happened to be the chief actor in the episode, which marked his passing from the progressive kingdom of light into that self-chosen domain of darkness.
So he determined that all the things that was wrong in his life was Jesus's fault, and he was going to get back at him, right? All right, Gary.
I wonder if people who have this bipolar disorder, you know, did he have something like that? And do the people today with bipolar disorder, I don't know.
Have something like Judas?
Well, whether they would be, in the same vein,
It's
I don't know.
possible.
Yeah,
But you got to remember, Pam, that people like that are not physically normal, that they will not be judged on that physical abnormality. In other words, if that's what caused them to do that, then they would have mercy enough that they would go through that and still wake up in the mansion worlds.
I see.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, Gary.
Okay. The master, many times, both privately and publicly, had warned Judas that he was slipping. But divine warnings are usually useless in dealing with the embittered human nature. Jesus did everything possible consistent with man's moral freedom. To prevent Judas's choosing to go the wrong way, the great test finally came. The sun of resentment failed. He yielded to the sour and sordid dictates of a proud and vengeful mind, of exaggerated self importance, and swiftly plunged on down into confusion, despair, and depravity.
Okay, so he created his own hole and he climbed into it, didn't he?
I think he covered it up with a suicide.
He did. All right, Letch, would you take the next one for us?
Yes. Judas then entered into the base and shameful intrigue to betray his Lord and Master, and quickly carried the nefarious scheme into effect. During the outworking of his anger-conceived plans of traitorous betrayal, he experienced moments of regret and shame, and in these lucid intervals he faint-heartedly conceived, as a defense in his own mind, the idea that Jesus might possibly exert his power and deliver himself at the very last moment.
So you see how he's trying to fool himself into thinking he's going to help Jesus free all this stuff and go the way he thinks it ought to work there, right? Judas then entered into the base and shameful intrigue to betray his Lord and Master and quickly carried the nefarious scheme into effect.
We just read this.
Pardon me, Rodney?
Can we just read this?
No.
Okay.
Into effect. During the outworking of this anger-conceived plans of traitorous betrayal, he experienced moments of regret and shame. And in these lucid intervals, he faint-heartedly conceived, as a defense in his own mind, the idea that Jesus might possibly exert power and deliver himself at the last moment. Did I just, Rodney, I think you're right. I think I
That's the one I
got
Yeah.
two slides of the same thing.
Yeah.
Looks like I did. Okay. Well, that's all right. I'll go let Diane read the last.
Oops. You skipped one.
Yeah. Skip back.
Let's skip backwards. Wrong way, Corrigan.
Sort of
Too far.
No. One
Next
more.
one.
There.
I think this is it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That looks right.
Diane, you're up, I think.
Yeah, I am. Thank you. When the sordid and sinful business was all over, the renegade mortal, who thought lightly of selling his friend for 30 pieces of silver to satisfy a long nursed craving for revenge, rushed out and committed the final act in the drama of fleeing from the realities of mortal existence, suicide.
Okay, you see what they're saying about suicide here? It's fleeing from the realities of mortal existence, which you cannot do. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
That's why this question comes up again and again and again about um, suicide, because it says the act in the drama of fleeing from the realities of mortal existence, suicide. In other words, God has a plan for your life all the way through. And when you commit suicide, you basically stop yourself from being able to gain that experience so that you can go on like you're supposed to, every single person the same way. Okay.
You know, I was just talking last night with my cousin who is 86 years old. And her exact words is, I don't know why I'm still around. God must have some purpose and for me to be around at this time, but I do not know what that is.
What'd
That's
you
the
say to
exact
her?
words my mother says over every time I go over to her house. You know, I have to go over and feed her lunch every day uh, with dementia, you know, and she
Mhm.
can't remember hardly anything at this point. Hardly any. The only person she recognizes now is me. She doesn't recognize my sister. She doesn't recognize any of her friends or anything like that. But she says the same words you just said, Gary, over and over again. I don't know why I'm here, but there must be something that God wants me to learn, you know. And that may be the case when you're 91 years old. I don't know, you know, but maybe it's not her that's supposed to learn something. Maybe it's me, you
Right.
know, as the caregiver.
Yeah.
So who's to say where it comes from and where the lessons are supposed to come from? But the reason she might still be around is because there's something I'm supposed to learn from this, you know, definitely. So. We all have different crosses to bear, as we say, and we just have to accept the crosses we get and carry them as far as we can, right?
I just want an aluminum one.
Aluminum.
Titanium for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. When I was a Southern Baptist, y'all, I got to tell you this story since we got just a minute left. When I was a Southern Baptist, you know, I was quite a preacher. And one weekend, I built a wooden cross with a wheel on it and walked halfway up the keys with this wooden cross
Uh,
as witness to people. You know, I was a go-getter back then. You know, something I wouldn't do now, but as foolish men, when we're young, we do a lot of different things, don't we? I think I was 18 years old.
Have
So,
you ever thought about yourself as you was young and you say, my God, you know,
oh,
what was
yeah,
I
who was
thinking?
that person, right?
the person I am now and the person I was are you wouldn't recognize.
That's right. And for all of y'all out there listening to this video tonight, I went over 3,000 videos today. I sent a little notice to all the people in our group. 3,000 videos on YouTube just talking about
The
they're all about
words
the
have
Urantia
found it
book.
difficult to forgive Judas,
You
and
know,
his name has become skewed throughout a
Okay, we have one more.
A small one.
huh?
We
Yeah,
have one more.
Let's see here.
The
Not
11 apostles.
oh, okay. Here we go. Rodney.
The 11 apostles were horrified, stunned. Jesus regarded the betrayer only with pity. They were also found it difficult to forgive Judas, and his name has become enshrined throughout a far-flung universe.
Wow.
Wow. So they all pitied him. That's the only thing they could have for him, right?
Yeah.
he's really probably the best known apostle.
Probably.
Probably so. And one thing's for sure, he sure messed up, didn't he? Okay, next time we're going to go to paper 140, the ordination of the 12.
Get back
So,
to the story.
yeah, back to the story. Now, let me stop the video and share the prayer.
Video stop.
There we go. Prayer of accept.
Question. How many views do we get?
How many views do we get?
How popular is the site or wherever?
We don't get that many views. We've gotten 130, 135, 25 or 135,000 views. And I think it counted it for a year. So
That is not bad.
not great, but could be better.
I mean, you stop and think this is not a easy book. And there's
No.
not that many. There's a lot of, we have basically fighting three dominant religions.
Yeah. And
we're
to
not
be
fighting.
honest with you, Gary, it's not something that's that popular with folks. They don't know much about the book, and so the other thing is the computer doesn't push it out. It's not something that there's a lot of popularity about. So some of our videos have views as low as 20 views or 40 views and things like that. Believe it or not, our shorts, you know, the little ones I cut out of the weekly meetings, the shorts are getting like anywhere, some of them up to 600 or 800 views.
I guess people are looking for brevity and, like,
Yeah.
what can I get out of this?
Yeah, but the videos themselves don't get all that many views. Even the other videos I've been doing for the book I'm working on, I'm done with the 19 chapters. I finished the last one today. I still have to do the inspirational things for the last 3 chapters, but I'm going to go back through the book and do any corrections and do an audio of the book. Would y'all like me to send you a copy of the audio as I do it or not?
Oh, yeah. I've been threatening to go audio on books for quite a while.
Yeah. So I'm going to do the audio for the book and then I'll be ready to, put it on whatever format we're going to put it on. And it being about Jesus will probably get more views than, or more sales than the one about God that I did. So, but this is the only other book I'm going to do. I'm not doing any more after this. So I'm getting too old for this sort of
Very
thing.
young and compared to me, so just relax.
All right. Yeah, let's get somebody to read the prayer. Rodney, would you like to read the prayer tonight?
Sure. Prayer of acceptance. I believe that God is my paradise Father, and that only by faith am I saved. No sacrifice is necessary. By this same faith, I became a child of God, and know that all men and women are my brothers and sisters. We know the Son of God, the sovereign of our universe of Nebadon, is Christ, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. By allowing the will of God to become my will, I will someday stand in the presence of the Paradise Father. In the name of Christ, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And
Amen.
thanks everybody for coming. Thanks everybody that comes sees our videos, and we will go on to the next thing then on Tuesday, right? Paper
Mhm.
140. The creek don't
Deal.
rise, as they
Yeah.
say. Uh, okay, y'all. And so I will sign off with that.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Paul.
Love you guys.
Love you guys
Not
too.
at all. Good night.
We'll plan on seeing everybody next Tuesday. All right.
Great.
Oh, look, I'll send you everybody a email tomorrow um, of the last 3 videos for chapter 19. So,
Okay. I've
Okay.
I found which pocket they're in.
yeah, I got that.
Hmm.
All right. Catch y'all later.
Right.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.